Okay, let's unpack this. You've sent over quite a stack of sources. We're talking CBS News, AP, Daily Mail, Newsweek, Al Jazeera, BBC, PBS News,
Hmm.
all focused on this, well, really fascinating and fast-moving story. The investigation into former special counsel Jack Smith.
That's right.
So our mission today really is to cut through the noise, pull out the key facts, and try to understand the implications of this new probe.
Hmm.
This is, it's not just another legal story, is it? It's this surprising reversal of the prosecutor now being investigated.
Exactly. A real flip.
So let's dive deep into what this all actually means.
Well, what's truly fascinating here, I think, is this complex mix, federal law, these
Hmm.
intense political accusations, the agencies tangled up in it. We're going to explore the specifics, sure, but also that broader context, because
Right.
that's absolutely key, I believe, to understanding why this matters to you.
Okay, so the big headline, the one everyone's seeing, Jack Smith is under investigation. Who exactly is investigating him, and what's the main charge here?
So it's the Office of Special Counsel, the OSC. They've confirmed they've launched an investigation into Smith.
Okay, the OSC. Now that's different from Smith's own office, right?
Absolutely distinct. Yeah, the OSC is an independent federal agency. Its main job is investigating rule violations by federal civil service members. Think federal workplace rules.
Got it.
Now, they don't have criminal enforcement power, it's important to note, but they can impose things like fines, suspensions, or even recommend someone be removed from their job for violations.
And I gather the focus is on potential violations of the Hatch Act. Could you just quickly explain what that is?
That's exactly right. The Hatch Act, it's a federal law, and it basically limits certain political activities of federal employees.
Limits how?
Well, in simple terms, it stops public officials using their official job, their position, to influence elections. It's like a workplace guideline, really, aimed at keeping official duties separate from, political campaigning.
So not a criminal thing, but disciplinary actions are possible.
Precisely. Significant ones, potentially.
Okay, this is where that reversal we mentioned really hits home. To get the weight of these accusations, we probably need to understand Jack Smith himself in this context. What was his role exactly, and what specific actions are under the microscope now?
Right. So Jack Smith was appointed special counsel, that was back in November 2022, by the Attorney General at the time, Merrick Garland.
A special counsel appointment that signifies something specific, doesn't it? Independence.
Yes, that's the idea. It's designed for a degree of independence from the main Justice Department, especially in, sensitive cases, to avoid the perception of political influence and his task, overseeing two major federal investigations involving Donald Trump.
Which investigations were those again?
Well, they ultimately led to criminal charges against Mr. Trump in 2023. One case was about his handling of classified documents, the ones found at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh.
The other concerned his alleged efforts to subvert the 2020 election results. That included alleged pressure on Vice President Pence, the false elector scheme, all leading up to January 6th, 2021.
And what happened with those cases?
Yeah.
Given that Trump won re-election recently.
Right. Well, both cases, even though they resulted in charges, were actually closed last year. That was after Mr. Trump won in November 2024.
Why? Just because he won?
It comes down to a long-standing Justice Department policy. It basically prohibits indicting or continuing to prosecute a sitting president.
I see.
So Smith resigned in January, just days before Trump returned to office. And after resigning, he released this January 6th report.
Ah, yes, I remember that. What did it say?
He stated his belief that Mr. Trump would have been convicted of conspiracy to defraud the United States if he hadn't won the election. He also, defended his team, pushed back against claims of politics driving the prosecution. He emphasized their commitment to the rule of law. And interestingly, he noted Trump's ability and willingness to use social media to target witnesses, courts, prosecutors, called it a significant challenge.
And mentioned a gag order.
Yes, indicated they sought one for protection because of that.
Quite a statement to make on the way out. But it still leaves the question. If the cases were closed, he'd resigned. What actually prompted this new investigation into his conduct? Where did the push come from?
It was formally spurred, according to the sources, by Senator Tom Cotton. He's a Republican from Arkansas.
Senator Cotton. Oh.
He publicly called for the OSC, the Office of Special Counsel, to scrutinize Smith's activities just earlier this week. The allegation was that Smith pushed for a rush trial of Trump.
How did he frame that?
Well, he wrote on X and also in a letter to the acting OSC chairman, Jamison Greer, saying Smith's actions were those of a political actor masquerading as a public official. He called it unprecedented interference in the 2024 election and alleged Smith's conduct was basically designed to help Biden and Harris in their campaign. Strong words.
Very strong accusations indeed. So
Right.
that's Senator Cotton's perspective. But surely there's a counter-argument. How are the Justice Department or other legal folks responding to these claims?
There definitely is. Attorney General Merrick Garland, for his part, has repeatedly said politics played no role in handling the Trump cases. Full stop.
And other experts.
Yes, Richard Painter, for example. He was the top ethics lawyer in the George W. Bush administration. He expressed, well, skepticism. He said he'd, quote, never seen a prosecutor found to violate the Hatch Act for pleading with a court. Basically, for asking for a trial date.
Interesting point.
Painter added he doesn't see Smith's filings as a Hatch Act violation. He points out the indictments were way back in 2023, well over a year before the election. And Smith wasn't, holding press conferences or making big public statements close to the election itself. The argument being pushing your case forward is just a prosecutor's job, not inherently political.
That's a helpful legal perspective from Painter,
Yeah.
framing it like that. But, hearing that this agency, the OSC, which is supposed to be independent, now facing questions about its own impartiality in this politically charged situation, it does sort of raise a flag for the listener, doesn't it?
It really does.
How solid is its independence right now? Has this leadership tumult you mentioned earlier really affected its ability to be seen as fair?
That's a huge question, and the sources definitely highlight some major concerns there. The OSC has seen significant turmoil in its leadership just this past year.
How so?
Well, its previous head, Hampton Dellinger, he was a Biden appointee, was fired quite abruptly by the Trump administration back in February. Dellinger actually sued to get his job back initially, but then dropped the fight in March. He warned, though, about the potential damage to the agency, to its independence, if its leader wasn't genuinely independent.
So Dellinger's out. Who replaced him?
Well, this is where it gets complicated. Mr. Trump nominated Paul Ingrassia. He's described in reports as a right-wing podcast host, a MAGA loyalist, someone who's praised controversial figures and pushed false claims about the 2020 election.
And is he leading the OSC now?
No, his nomination is actually stalled in the Senate currently. So in the meantime, Trump's trade representative, Jamison Greer, is the acting head.
Same Greer who received Senator Cotton's letter.
The very same. And look, both Richard Painter and reports from CNN have voiced serious concerns about the agency's independence under this current setup. Some sources describe it pretty starkly, saying it's been captured by loyalists or it's a shell of its former self.
Wow.
So yeah, that perception of the OSC's independence or lack thereof is a massive factor in how this whole investigation into Smith is being interpreted. It casts a shadow, really.
Stepping back a bit then, how does all this, the investigation into Smith, the questions about the OSC, how does it fit into the bigger picture? What does it mean for how the government works or how justice is perceived?
That's the crucial connection to make. If we look broadly, the sources suggest this fits into a wider pattern of personnel changes within federal departments under the Trump administration, particularly targeting people involved in investigating Mr. Trump himself.
Like who else?
Well, for instance, the current Attorney General Pam Bondi has reportedly fired over 20 Justice Department employees who worked with Jack Smith on the Trump investigations. Apparently, some were identified by her weaponization working group. And it's also noted there hasn't been any immediate sign that the OSC is investigating other special counsels appointed by Garland, the ones who investigated President Biden or his son, Hunter.
That comparison is being drawn.
It is. And this probe into Smith isn't the first time former officials have faced investigations under this administration either. Think back to former FBI Director James Comey, former CIA Director John Brennan. They were also investigated. So this pattern seems to suggest, or at least raises questions about, a potential strategic effort to challenge the credibility of those who investigate powerful figures.
Right, so let's try and pull this together. We've unpacked the current OSC investigation into Jack Smith, looked at the Hatch Act allegations, Senator Cotton's role, and these really significant questions about the OSC's own independence because of its leadership situation. It's definitely a complex tangle of legal procedures and, well, political maneuvering. That reversal of roles idea seems pretty central.
It really does. And that brings us to an important question, maybe for you, the listener, to think about. How does this investigation, coupled with these real concerns about the Office of Special Counsel's independence, affect your trust your trust in federal institutions, and the perception of justice when these highly political cases come up. What stands out to you most about this idea? A former prosecutor being investigated by an agency whose leadership is appointed by the very person he was prosecuting.
A lot to consider there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into a story that's clearly still developing and has some pretty major implications for our legal and political landscape.